What if I told you that all the civilization you know is just a thin layer of varnish covering the savage beast we really are? At this exact moment, while you watch this video, millions of people around the world are being kept in line not by natural goodness, but by pure fear of consequences. Police, laws, social contracts, all of this exists because Thomas Hobbes discovered a terrifying truth about our species in 1651. A truth so disturbing that modern society spends trillions trying to hide it from you. Hobbes observed that without government, without rules, without punishments, human life becomes solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. He understood something most reluctantly admit. We are predators disguised as civilized beings, and all our morality is just a collective survival mechanism designed to prevent us from tearing each other apart. But here's what makes this absolutely terrifying. Hobbes predicted with frightening accuracy how this would manifest in the digital age, where invisible algorithms now control our every impulse, keeping the human beast in check through sophisticated psychological manipulation. And the most disturbing part? We voluntarily handed them this power because deep down, we know Hobbes was right about what we really are. This is happening to you right now as your ethical decisions are secretly dictated by fear of social punishment, not genuine moral conviction. The state of nature, the revelation that changed everything. Thomas Hobbes lived through the English Civil War 1642 to 1651, where he witnessed neighbors killing neighbors, families destroying each other, and all social order completely collapsing into barbaric chaos. Unlike previous philosophers who romantically idealized human nature, Hobbes saw the raw reality with crystal clarity. Remove institutions and you'll see who we really are underneath the civilized mask. Hobbes understood something that most people desperately resist admitting. Our primordial nature is perpetual war of all against all, bellum omnium contra omnes, where human life becomes a desperate scramble for resources, power, and survival. In the state of nature, there exists no justice, no property, no morality, only the desperate struggle for survival where the strongest devour the weakest without remorse or hesitation. This isn't philosophical speculation, it's observable biological reality. A devastating 2019 Yale University study revealed that children as young as 6 months already demonstrate tribal preferences and exclusionary behaviors against external groups. Modern neuroscience confirms this with revolutionary research showing that our brains are literally hardwired for tribal violence from birth, with mirror neurons that activate aggressive responses to perceived threats to our group identity. Consider the historical case of Pitcairn Island in 1790. When HMS Bounty mutineers arrived at this paradisiacal island with Tahitian women, everything seemed perfect, abundant resources, no external threats, small manageable population. In less than 20 years, murders, rapes, and civil war reduced a prosperous population to just for men and 10 women survivors. Paradise became hell not because of scarcity, but because Hobbes' state of nature reasserted itself when formal authority disappeared. Today we see this on social media. Remove moderation for just a few hours and watch how quickly civilized people transform into digital hordes, doxing, harassing, and destroying lives with savage efficiency. You've already experienced this personally. Why do you need 20 different types of insurance? Why does your house have multiple locks? Why are there cameras on every corner monitoring your every move? The answer is devastatingly simple. Everyone intuitively knows that Hobbes was right. We are predators waiting for the right opportunity to strike, and every security measure exists because we don't trust each other's natural goodness. When was the last time you left your car unlocked in a public place? When did you last trust a stranger with something valuable? Your behavior reveals what you really believe about human nature. This is happening to you right now if you're thinking, but I'm different, while simultaneously checking that your doors are locked and your passwords are secure. But here's what makes this truly disturbing and psychologically devastating. the social contract, the desperate bargain with the devil. Hobbes proposed that our only salvation from mutual destruction would be the social contract, a desperate bargain where we surrender our total freedom in exchange for protection from each other. This isn't love for humanity that civilizes us, it's pure existential terror, paralyzing fear of dying at the hands of other predators exactly like ourselves. The social contract isn't optional or noble. It's a forced surrender agreement where we trade our savage nature for artificial security, like prisoners voluntarily entering maximum security prison to avoid being murdered by other inmates. For Hobbes, this was rational calculation. We would rather live as civilized slaves than die as free animals in the natural state of perpetual warfare and mutual slaughter. A chilling 2021 Stanford University study showed that in emergency situations, 78% of people admit having seriously considered morally unacceptable actions including theft, violence, and abandoning others to save themselves. Modern neuroscience confirms this with shocking research showing that our morality dissolves in seconds when our survival is threatened. The civilized cortex shuts down and the reptilian brain takes control. During the devastating siege of Leningrad 1941–1944, civilized Soviet citizens quickly resorted to cannibalism and murder for food within weeks of normal social order breaking down. They sold their own children for a piece of bread, not because they were monsters, but because hunger revealed our true nature when the social contract dissolved and Hobbes' state of nature reasserted itself. Notice how modern corporations function exactly as Hobbes predicted. They don't trust in employees' goodness, but in surveillance, monitoring, and elaborate punishment systems to prevent natural human destructiveness. HR departments don't exist to be kind. They exist to prevent you from destroying the company from within by following your natural instincts for self-interest, resource hoarding, and tribal warfare. Your employment contract is pure Hobbesian social contract. You surrender your freedom to do whatever you want in exchange for protection, salary from the economic state of nature, poverty, homelessness, starvation. When was the last time you followed a rule purely out of love for humanity and not fear of consequences? When did you last act morally when nobody was watching and there was zero chance of punishment? This is happening to you right now if you're realizing that every good thing you do is actually calculated self-interest disguised as virtue. This leads us to the most shocking aspect. You're not a good person by choice. You're a good person by sophisticated coercion. The illusion of morality, the theater of manufactured goodness. Hobbes understood that our morality is nothing but sophisticated strategic calculation disguised as virtue. We are good because being bad is dangerous and socially costly, not because we are naturally virtuous beings. All human ethics is just fear dressed up in philosophical language. Our principles are survival algorithms programmed by terror of rejection, punishment, and social death. The compassion we feel is limited and calculated. We extend kindness only when it benefits us or when we're being observed by others who might judge our moral performance. Our conscience isn't some divine moral compass. It's a social alarm system that warns us when we're risking our position in the group hierarchy and threatening our access to resources and protection. A devastating 2020 Harvard University study revealed that 89% of moral decisions are based on anticipated social consequences, not genuine principles or innate goodness. Modern neuroscience confirms this, with revolutionary research showing that brain areas responsible for moral reasoning activate simultaneously with fear centers. Morality and terror are neurologically linked. Analyze the infamous case of Kitty Genovese in 1964. 38 people watched her being murdered for 35 minutes and nobody intervened to save her life. Not because they were evil people, but because the social contract wasn't clear about who had responsibility to act, and without clear social rules, humans default to self-preservation over helping others. Observe how modern politicians change their deeply held moral convictions overnight when they perceive it's become electorally dangerous to maintain their previous positions. They're not lying, They're following their Hobbesian survival instinct, adapting their performative morality to the demands of their tribal group to maintain power and resources. You've noticed how your own morality magically adjusts depending on who's watching, at home, at work. With friends, you become different moral versions of yourself based on social expectations and potential consequences. Your moral flexibility isn't hypocrisy, it's Hobbesian survival strategy. You instinctively calibrate your ethical performance to maximize social acceptance and minimize punishment risk. This is happening to you right now if you're mentally editing your political opinions based on who might read this comment, not what you actually believe. But there's something even more sinister. Our goodness is performative theater, and everyone knows this intuitively. The modern Leviathan, the new masters of human nature. For Hobbes, we needed a Leviathan, an absolute power that would protect us from ourselves through the credible threat of overwhelming punishment for antisocial behavior. He couldn't have imagined that in the 21st century, this Leviathan wouldn't be a king with armies, but invisible algorithms that know our destructive impulses, better than we know ourselves. The modern Leviathan is omnipresent but invisible: surveillance cameras, behavioral algorithms, social credit systems that monitor and predict every breath, click, and thought pattern we produce. This new Leviathan doesn't need brute force because it has something far more powerful: complete psychological manipulation through datafied behavioral control and sophisticated social blackmail. A terrifying 2022 MIT study showed that digital platforms can predict antisocial behaviors with 94% accuracy by analyzing nothing but click patterns, scroll speed, and micro-expressions captured by front-facing cameras. Modern neuroscience confirms this with devastating research showing that our neural patterns reveal intentions and impulses before we're even consciously aware of them. We can be controlled before we know we want to act. During the Arab Spring 2010 to 2012, governments discovered they could predict and control mass revolts by monitoring social media sentiment in real time and strategically deploying algorithmic counter-narratives. The digital Leviathan was born in that moment, invisible, omnipresent, and terrifyingly effective at predicting and controlling massive human behavior through psychological manipulation rather than physical force. Major corporations today don't sell products, they sell behavioral control services. Facebook, Google, TikTok are pure Hobbesian machines designed to channel our destructive impulses into profit. They keep us civilized through programmed dopamine hits and controlled outrage cycles, turning our natural aggression into engagement metrics and advertising revenue. Your social media feeds are designed to generate controlled anger because rage is our natural Hobbesian state. They've just learned to monetize our inherent savagery. The algorithms know you want to destroy your enemies, so they show you enemies to hate while selling you products. They've turned the state of nature into a business model. This is happening to you right now if you feel addicted to political outrage content that makes you angry but unable to stop consuming it. This leads us to the most terrifying revelation. We're not free citizens. We're digital livestock herded by algorithms that perfectly understood Hobbes' insights about human nature. The invisible prison, slaves who love their chains. Hobbes' most disturbing discovery was that we wouldn't just accept our civilizational slavery. We would desperately love it and defend it against anyone who threatened to free us. Because the alternative is facing the monster we really are underneath the social programming. We prefer the comforting illusion of safety to the brutal truth of our predatory nature. Hobbes predicted we would voluntarily choose tyranny in exchange for protection from ourselves, and he was absolutely, prophetically correct about human psychology. Our freedom became the price we pay for the illusion that we're not bloodthirsty savages waiting for the right opportunity to tear each other apart. A shocking 2023 Oxford University study revealed that 76% of people prefer constant surveillance to the risk of social instability, actively choosing digital authoritarianism over chaotic freedom. Modern neuroscience confirms this, with research showing that our brains release endorphins when we voluntarily submit to authority. We're neurochemically rewarded for giving up our autonomy. Examine modern China's social credit system. It's pure applied Hobbesism with terrifying efficiency and popular support from the monitored population. Citizens don't just accept being monitored 24/7, they compete to be the most obedient because they understand intuitively that the alternative is social chaos and the return of the state of nature. Watch how free societies reacted to the pandemic. In weeks, billions voluntarily surrendered fundamental liberties without resistance, even celebrating their own compliance. Fear of the Hobbesian state of nature, disease, death, collapse instantly superseded any abstract love of freedom they claimed to value above all else. The most disturbing part? Most people felt relief giving up the burden of freedom. Making your own choices is terrifying when you know what you're capable of. When was the last time you questioned whether you actually want freedom, or if you prefer the security of being controlled by systems superior to your own impulses? This is happening to you right now if you're feeling anxious about the idea of living without rules, surveillance, and social pressure keeping your darker impulses in check. Here's the final truth nobody wants to admit. Maybe Hobbes was right, and our only choice is between different types of chains designed to contain the monster within. The choice nobody wants to make. Thomas Hobbes left us with a terrifying choice. Accept that we are civilized monsters and embrace the systems that control us, or reject this truth and watch everything collapse around us as human nature reasserts itself. Modern neuroscience confirms his observations with research, showing that our capacity for genuine empathy rarely extends beyond 150 people. The rest of humanity are just abstract statistics we would sacrifice without hesitation if our survival depended on it. The most devastating realization. Hobbes wasn't describing a philosophical thought experiment. He was documenting observable biological reality about our species that we spend enormous energy trying to forget and deny. Here's your challenge. For 1 week, observe your own Hobbesian motivations with brutal honesty. Count how many times you act morally only because of fear of consequences. Count how many times you fantasize about scenarios where rules don't apply to you. Notice how your empathy automatically switches off for people outside your immediate tribe. Pay attention to how quickly you dehumanize anyone who threatens your resources or social position. Tell me in the comments, do you prefer living in the comfortable illusion that we're naturally good, or facing the brutal truth that, as Hobbes said, man is wolf to man? Because in the end, maybe our only redemption is accepting the monster we are and building cages strong enough to contain ourselves before someone else builds those cages for us. As Hobbes understood, the choice isn't between freedom and tyranny. The choice is between the tyranny we choose and the chaos we unleash when we pretend we don't need it.